Denver Nuggets are trading Michael Porter Jr. to the Brooklyn Nets for Cam Johnson. Jr. has battled injuries throughout his career in Denver, won a title in 2023. They're receiving an unprotected 2032 first-round pick in the deal.
Imagine this. You're the Denver Nuggets. You just won the 2023 NBA championship. You've got the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic. Everything should have been golden. But instead, everything collapsed. What happened next turned the Nuggets from reigning champs into the center of one of the wildest offseason dramas in NBA history. We're talking about a Hall of Fame-level coach fired with just 3 games left in the regular season. A key player reportedly begging to leave Denver and play overseas in Greece. And behind the scenes, front office chaos that feels like it was ripped straight out of a soap opera. And best of all, I finally get to break down my favorite trade of this entire offseason. Now, before we jump in, here's a quick heads up. Every week, we're giving away a free jersey to one lucky subscriber who has notifications turned on. We're also picking a follower from my Instagram with notice on to get a jersey of their choice. Don't miss out. All right, now let's talk about the chaos. The date was April 8th, 2025. The Nuggets had just 3 games remaining in their regular season. The roster had flaws, sure, but they were ready for another title run. Then came a bombshell move from owner Josh Kroenke. He fired Michael Malone, the winningest coach in Nuggets history. The man who led them to their first championship, 471-327 record, gone, and he wasn't alone. General manager Calvin Booth was also out. ESPN later reported that Malone and Booth were stuck in a toxic Cold War that infected the entire organization. If you go back to the start of last season, it was already obvious. Malone hated the roster Booth built, and that tension, it finally exploded.
Yeah, losing sucks. That's my first general thought. No, I'm not gonna, to your point, I don't think there's any need for panic. You know, going into the season, shooting is a concern of mine. You know, you lose a guy like KCP who's a 40% three-point shooter.
It was no secret Michael Malone and Calvin Booth did not see eye to eye on how to build around 3-time MVP Nikola Jokic. The core disagreement. Booth wanted long-term sustainability. Right after winning the championship in 2023, he made a bold statement. I just want dudes we can develop, and it's sustainable. If it costs us a shot at going back-to-back, so be it. It's about winning 3 out of 6, not 1 in a row. That quote, spoken just months after Denver's title, hit the locker room hard. Malone didn't buy into that philosophy, and it created a fracture so deep that players were reportedly forced to choose sides. One source said it plainly. If you were one of Calvin's guys, Michael Malone didn't want to play you. Think about that. A championship roster, built around a generational MVP, now being torn apart by internal politics. And so, everything spiraled. Malone and Booth were fired on the same day. And in their place, a new era began, led by David Adelman. The name should sound familiar. His father, Rick Adelman, is a Hall of Fame coach with over 1,000 career wins. But David's journey was different. At just 44, Adelman had spent 8 quiet years as Denver's assistant coach, studying, grinding, waiting. When he finally got his shot, he inherited a team in complete crisis. No training camp, no prep. Just 3 regular season games to keep the season alive. And yet, he delivered. Under Adelman's leadership, the Nuggets won all 3 of their remaining games. They locked in the number 4 seed in the West, and then they pushed the eventual Western Conference champs, the OKC Thunder, to a full 7-game series in the playoffs. Aaron Gordon spoke for the team. I love DA. I hope he's our coach next year. Jamal Murray added, he puts everybody in the right spots. When it's time to lock in, he locks you in. Even Jokic said he had 3 games to change something. And I think he changed the energy. But the shakeup didn't end with coaching. The front office made a historic decision. Rather than hiring one general manager, the Nuggets hired two. On June 23, 2025, Denver introduced Ben Tenzer and John Wallace as co-executives. Tenzer, a long-time cap wizard with the franchise, became VP of basketball operations. Wallace, who had followed Tim Connolly to Minnesota and then returned, took over player personnel. Owner Josh Kroenke explained the decision, saying, "We trust both of them. They've already been crucial to our success." This new leadership model set the tone for what would become one of the most aggressive off-seasons in franchise history. And it all began with a massive bombshell on day one of free agency. On June 30, 2025, Shams dropped the report. Michael Porter Jr. gone. Traded to the Brooklyn Nets along with an unprotected 2032 first-round pick. In return, the Nuggets got Cam Johnson. Let that sink in. A core piece of their championship run, traded away just 2 years later.
Lobby, like you're not attracted to them at all, and it's like, okay, now you have to f them and pretend that you like it.
No, that's definitely
It's
tough.
awful.
And now they expect you to smile and act like this was a good move. No, it was brutal. This is what they got in
It's the
return.
squaring of shoulder. So anytime you're going left, it's just so easy to turn that lead shoulder. But when you're going right, the shoulder, the arm that's shooting the ball is actively away from the hoop. So then you have to rotate in order to square it with the hoop while maintaining speed.
Let's be real. The Denver Nuggets didn't just trade a player. They traded away the second most prolific three-point shooter in franchise history. Michael Porter Jr., a key piece of their championship run, had drilled 843 threes in his Nuggets career. But when the lights were brightest, when it mattered the most, he vanished. And that's the brutal truth behind this trade. Michael Porter Jr. didn't just struggle in the playoffs, he completely disappeared. We're not talking about a small dip in production. We're talking about a $35.8 million player who turned into a liability on the floor. During the regular season, he was solid. 18.2 points per game, 50.4% from the field, 39.5% from deep. But in the playoffs, it all crumbled. Against OKC, Porter averaged just 7.4 points on 32.2% shooting. Across 7 games. In Game 7, when Denver needed him most, he dropped 6 points on 3 of 8 shooting and went 0-4-4 from 3. And to his credit, Porter didn't make excuses. He owned it. "I haven't been contributing in any way right now. A lot of the reason we lost is because I'm not helping contribute," he said after the loss. Now, yes, Porter was battling a grade 2 AC joint sprain in his shoulder, an injury that typically requires 4 to 5 weeks of recovery. But here's the thing. If you're going to play through pain, you've got to deliver. Instead, his efforts, however brave, ended up hurting Denver's title hopes, so let's break down this trade. This was not a simple player swap. Denver had to sweeten the deal significantly. On June 30, 2025, the Nuggets shipped Michael Porter Jr. and an unprotected 2032 first-round pick to the Brooklyn Nets in exchange for Cam Johnson. Let that sink in. By the year 2032, Nikola Jokic will be 37 years old, possibly retired or at the tail end of his career. That pick could easily turn into a lottery selection for a rebuilding Nets team that's stacking future assets. This was a dream scenario. The fact that Denver gave up such a valuable future pick tells you everything you need to know about their mindset. They are all in on Jokic's prime. And that's the complete opposite of the Calvin Booth era, where the focus was on sustainability over immediate contention. So who exactly are they getting in Cam Johnson? On paper, his stats are nearly identical to Porter's. Johnson averaged 18.8 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 3.4 assists on 47.5% shooting and 39% from 3. Porter, by comparison, put up 18.2 points, 7 rebounds, and 2.1 assists on 50.4% shooting and 39.5% from deep, but stats don't tell the whole story. Where Johnson separates himself is on defense. At 6'8", he can guard multiple positions and doesn't get hunted in the playoffs like Porter. He's also shown real growth as a shot creator in Brooklyn, adding a layer to his game that makes him far more versatile. And most importantly, the chemistry with Jokic is already expected to be far smoother. Denver fans have long joked that when Porter touches the ball, the possession ends. He's not exactly known for passing. Johnson, on the other hand, moves, cuts, and reads the floor, perfect for Denver's ball movement-heavy offense. But this wasn't just about basketball. This was a salary cap masterclass. By moving Porter's contract, the Nuggets saved $17.20 million in the 2025-26 season alone. Over 2 years, they shaved off $34.9 million in payroll. They dropped below the luxury tax, created a $16.8 million trade exception, and unlocked their full $16 million mid-level exception for additional moves and the ripple effect. It led directly to one of the wildest twists of the offseason, the Jonas Valanciunas saga. On July 1, 2025, just 1 day after the Porter trade, Denver flipped Dario Saric's expiring contract to the Sacramento Kings for Jonas Valanciunas, finally solving their backup center problem. Valanciunas, a veteran starter, was expected to give Denver 15 to 20 solid minutes behind Jokic. He was on a reasonable $10.4 million deal with a team option for the following year. Perfect move, right? Wrong. Just 48 hours later, another bombshell dropped. Valanciunas was reportedly on the verge of signing with Greek powerhouse Panathinaikos Athens. Let me say that again. A 33-year-old NBA veteran traded to a championship contender was about to walk away from the league and from the chance to play with a 3-time MVP to go play in Greece. His offer, 3 years, $13 million total. That's $4.3 million per year, way less than he'd make in Denver. And it wasn't a rumor. Valanciunas actually flew to Athens, was photographed arriving for his medical exam, and reportedly ready to sign. One columnist even joked that he was tasting spanakopita and visiting the Parthenon while the Nuggets scrambled behind the scenes. But Denver didn't panic. According to NBA insider Mark Stein, Nuggets executives made one thing clear: they were not letting him out of his contract. Why? Releasing him would create $10.4 million in dead cap space. They desperately needed a backup center. They had just traded Zaric to get him. Legally, NBA players can't just ditch contracts to sign overseas. Valanciunas would need a buyout, and Denver wasn't budging. They told him, "You're playing for us whether you like it or not." It was a bizarre moment in NBA history, but it showed the Nuggets had some real backbone. And when you zoom out and look at the full picture, this offseason was a roster-building clinic. They turned Michael Porter Jr.'s contract into 4 key rotation players: Cam Johnson, an elite 3-on-D wing, Jonas Valanciunas, a proven physical backup center, Bruce Brown, a returning fan favorite, and defensive stopper Tim Hardaway Jr., a veteran shooter who fits seamlessly next to Jokic. Not forget, depth was Denver's biggest issue after the 2023 title run. They lost Jeff Green, Bruce Brown, and later Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who never truly replaced them. From the Nets side, this was a high-risk, high-reward gamble. They're banking on Porter's playoff woes being injury-related and betting that his regular season production will shine in a new environment. The results? Immediate impact. Before the trade, Vegas had Denver at plus 1,600 odds to win the 2026 title. After the deal, that jumped to plus 600, second best in the league. behind only the defending champion OKC Thunder. This wasn't just a trade. This was a philosophical transformation. Denver shifted from chasing raw upside to prioritizing reliability, defense, and depth. Cam Johnson may not have MPJ's ceiling, a P, but he brings exactly what Denver needed: consistency, toughness, and playoff-ready poise. And at $17 million less per year, that flexibility is a game-changer. Of course, none of this works without T. Stability on the bench. Enter David Adelman, the first-year head coach who stepped into chaos and made it work. Despite taking over with only 3 regular season games left, he led the Nuggets to a perfect finish, locked in the 4th seed, and pushed OKC to 7 games. The players are already bought in. Aaron Gordon said, "I love Da. I hope he's here next year." Jamal Murray added, "He puts everybody in the right spots. When it's time to lock in, he locks you in." Even Jokic, usually quiet, praised Adelman's leadership. He had 3 games to change something, and I think he changed the energy. And then there's the front office, a 2-man team of Ben Tenzer and John Wallace. Koji Miz making bold moves in their first offseason. From the Porter trade to the Valen Inas drama. They've been aggressive, smart, and fearless. Denver isn't just better, they're deeper, more balanced, and more focused. They might have had the wildest offseason in the league, but if this roster holds together and Valanciunas shows up, the Nuggets could be on their way back to the top because, at the end of the day, Nikola Jokic's prime won't be wasted.